and all the time. So I guess it was probably April this year, somewhere. My mind's not exactly remembering the exact time frame, but we've got a camera, security camera, so we can see what's going on around the house. And one of the favorite things I have ever seen on this camera is we had a black bear coming down our sidewalk, kind of like he owned the place. And the bear comes up and smacks the bird feeder down. But if you watch the video a couple of times, you'll notice, we don't have any pets, but you'll notice there's a cat. We've got chairs on the front porch. There's a cat sitting in the chair. And as the bear walks by, you see the cat's head tracking with the bear. And when the bear stands up and smacks the bird feeder, the cat draws back. Now, as I said, we don't have any pets. I like being free from the responsibility of feeding, caring for, veterinary bills, all that. But this cat has adopted us. All right? So every once in a while, it'll bring some other cats. You'll look on the camera and you'll see a couple other cats on the porch. Sometimes you'll see raccoons. Who knows what you'll see, right? So for some unknown reason, my family has decided to buy cat food and feed this cat. So the cat comes back, and periodically when the screen door is the only thing that's open, the cat will be there with its face right up against the window. And so then you feel guilty and you feed it some more. First it started off with leftovers. Then it was cat food from Aldi's, and now it's, cat food from Walmart. I don't know what's next, Ingles. But anyway, so we feed this cat, and I'm outside grilling, and the cat starts laying down by me, right? We'll be on the front porch, the cat will come by. So I finally decided the cat needs a name. So I thought back to my childhood, and some of you are old enough to remember Felix the cat. So I named the cat Felix. And I don't know what it is about having a stray cat. It's a beautiful cat, by the way. Time out. Siamese cat, snowshoe, probably worth $1,200. I don't know. It's beautiful cat. Beautiful cat. Somehow I've ended up forming a slight bond with the cat. We try to get the cat to come closer. We feed it. If we're in the backyard, it'll come down, but it never gets close enough where you can touch it. Never. I have not gotten there. This past week, the cat was gone for 2 or 3 days. And for some reason, unknown reason, we were worried about it. Every time we see buzzards in the neighborhood, oh gosh, we hope it's not the cat, Where's the cat? We're out there calling the cat at night. We don't even own this cat. Harper was over one day. I come home from work. She's like, let's find the cat, Pappy. Here, kitty. Here, kitty. Right? We call this cat. It has yet to come to us, and we've been feeding this thing for months. Not everyone responds when they're called. When was the last time you thought about what it means to answer a calling, and listen carefully, this is the most important question anyone will ever ask in their life. Not, will you accept the job? Will you marry me? How much do you want for the house? The most important question you will ever ask and answer, the most important question is, what does it mean to follow Jesus? We're here to sing songs. We're here to pray. We're here to take communion, right? Right now we got technical difficulties. We can't sing any songs, right? Life goes on. Church goes on, right? But is following Jesus more than just coming to church or what we do in this room when we gather? What does it mean to follow Jesus? For a lot of people, following Jesus means not just reading the Bible, but what? You better have the right translation of the Bible. For a lot of people, following Jesus means coming to church, but not just going to any church. It's got to have the right name over the door, because everyone else is not going to go into heaven, right? If you don't have the right name. Is that what it means to follow Jesus? Most Americans believe that following Jesus means going to church and being a good person. And that's it. If I go to church and I'm a good person, then I'm following Jesus. Following Jesus. Is it something mystical? Is it something profound? Is it something emotive? Right? Do I get a religious buzz every time I know I'm following Jesus? Is it always good weather, plenty of this, and everything is rosy? Is that what it means to follow Jesus? Crystal just read for us Matthew's calling. Matthew, who writes the gospel, Matthew, his name is Levi. Same guy. Son of Alphaeus. I want you to notice one thing at the top of the list. For following Jesus, the number one thing that Levi does, when Jesus says, "Follow me," the number one thing he does is throw a party. That's the immediate response. Jesus is on the lake. Some of your translations will say sea, right? He's by the Sea of Galilee, right? A large crowd comes to him and he begins to teach them. As he walked along, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax collector's booth. "Follow me." Levi gets up, he follows him. The very first action he has as a follower of Jesus, while Jesus is having dinner at Levi's house, many tax collectors and sinners were eating with him. See, Levi didn't get the memo that when you're with Jesus, you got to be with the saints. There's no room for people with messy baggage. There's no people with backgrounds. There's no sinners. Levi doesn't get this, right? He gathers all the riffraff, right? So Levi is a Jewish guy. He's collecting taxes for the government of Rome. Very corrupt system. It's more like what you would think of syndicated crime, mafioso. These guys skim off the top for themselves, but they're betraying their own countrymen because Levi is Jewish. That's a very Jewish name. And he's taking taxes from who? Who is Levi taxing? I'll give you a hint. He's sitting by the seaside. Who do you he's not taxing the guys out there on the jet skis, right? He's not taxing people who are doing the bass fishing tournament, right? Who is he taxing? The fishermen. Now, just jog your memory for a moment and try to think of the first two people that followed Jesus. Peter and John, who are... So, Jesus says to Levi, who's taxing the fishermen, "Come follow me." Sounds to me like a great recipe for future conflict within your group. See, Jesus didn't get the memo, diversity is bad, keep everyone the same, that's good. Diverse group, sinful people, and so Jesus, who is his habit to go by the seaside to teach them, says, "Follow me." He follows, and he brings these tax collectors and sinners. Now, verse 16, the teachers of the law who are Pharisees, I've told you guys this before, they had a saying. Tax collectors could never get into heaven because if they stopped to start confessing their sins, they would never live long enough to confess all of their sins. So in the eyes of a Pharisee, a tax collector who was a Jewish person taxing their own people, giving the money to Rome who's oppressing them, could never go to heaven. Think of the scandal that's going on here. Jesus is with a tax collector, his tax collector friends, and then the sinners. A lot of theologians, a lot of scholars say that the sinners are probably prostitutes. They're just being polite by just saying sinners instead of going into a lot of detail. So basically you have a convention in Las Vegas with the IRS going on here, and everybody's infuriated. The Pharisees see him eating with the sinners, right? I don't know that we ever really put the right emphasis on biblical table fellowship. What you see going on here. I don't know that we ever really wrap our minds around it. In the days of Jesus, you didn't have a McDonald's to go to. You didn't have Chick-fil-A. You didn't have Pals, right? So if you're together and you're eating with people, it's not a room full of strangers, it's people you know, but it's more than that. Table fellowship in the ancient world and in the days of Jesus meant full acceptance. If you sit down to eat with someone, it is almost a covenant relationship agreement. You're saying, I accept you, and basically the bonds are nearly as strong, and I know this is so foreign to us when you're eating a meal together, but the bonds are nearly as strong as a family relationship. So for Jesus to place himself on a table full of sinners, tax collectors, the scum of the earth, he is saying, we're together. We're bonded by this meal experience, and I fully accept you. You've got to think of the scandal. The Pharisees are the religious experts of the day. Jesus is being called rabbi, teacher, by his friends. They're looking at this. He's gathering a crowd, right? A large crowd comes to him in verse 13, and he's teaching them. They're feeling threatened by their position as religious leaders, but they're also feeling concerned for the other people in the religious community, that here is this guy Jesus, and he's going to lead them astray, because no preacher, no religious leader, no expert of the Torah would surround himself at a table with tax collectors and sinners. You got to try to get your mind around this dichotomy. He's saying he's a rabbi, he's trying to teach people, but he's with the wrong crowd. It doesn't mesh in their thinking, their understanding of what organized religion is. And so here he is, practicing an ancient cultural tradition of eating a meal with people, and he's saying, I accept you, I welcome you, I would defend you. I've got your back, you've got my back, we're bonded here. So it's a scandal. It's an outrage. They're infuriated. Jesus responds to them. Their question is, why would he eat with these people? Jesus hears it, and he says to them, it's not the healthy who need a doctor. You don't go to the doctor when you're fit, when everything's going well. You go there what? When you're sick. I didn't come to call the righteous. I've come to call sinners. My calling is to bring the sinners in. And that's exactly what he is doing. So back to my opening question. What does it really mean to follow Jesus? Obedience is the first thing that comes to my mind, especially when I look at Levi, who is Matthew. Jesus says, follow me. He gets up from the tax booth, and I don't know why, but every time I read the story, I think of a Charlie Brown background, and I think of that little booth where Lucy was behind it with the logical advice for a nickel. I don't know why. That's how I envision the tax booth. Every time I read the story, I think of Lucy and that little booth of hers, right? I'm sure it was much more elaborate and much more organized. But he calls Levi, he walks away. So the first thing that comes to mind when it means what's it mean to follow Jesus is obedience. But there's where we get confused when we're in church. Because we believe that obedience has an exchange rate, a currency exchange rate. Tammy and I went to England several years ago, before Clay was even born, on a mission trip. And I can still remember feeling like I was gouged and taken advantage of, because you had to exchange your currency rate. And so I just wanted to take my American dollars and I wanted to get some pounds. First of all, at the time, a pound was $1.77, which I didn't agree with. But secondly, the guy that hands the money over to you, he keeps a little bit of that. What is that? I thought it was a free service, okay? I'm not going to go into the fact that when we visited Herod, you had to pay a pound to use the bathroom, and I didn't. But I'm not going to get into that. We feel like obedience is an exchange with God. I will obey you, and God will what? You fill in the blank. Love me, bless me, shine his favor on me. Obedience is not to earn God's unconditional love or favor. It's simply evidence that Jesus is the one leading. When Jesus says, follow me, if I'm obeying, it's just evidence, right? You'll know a tree by what? The fruit that it bears. To follow Jesus, what does it mean? It means you have the ability to be led. I love to read books on leadership. I love to read articles on leadership. I love the topic of leadership. And one of the things that rises to the surface when you look at literature on leadership, to be a good leader, you have to have the ability to be led, to be influenced, to listen to others. You have to have the humility to know that you don't know everything. So what does it mean to follow Jesus? It's the humility to know that I don't know everything, that God knows more than I do. And you may say, well, that's pretty elementary. That's pretty much common sense. But how easy is that to put into practice? The ability to be led, to know you're not the expert, to know that someone knows more, that someone knows better. So, following Jesus, yes, I want obedience. Yes, I want to be led. But it's also about the idea of imitation. Right? When you look at the book of Acts, people that are being persecuted, they could tell that he was like Jesus. He acted like Jesus, right? It means that we act like Jesus would if we were in a situation and if he were there. Our actions, our attitudes, our behaviors should all be in sync. People should say, oh, I can see Jesus in that situation. But more than that, to follow Jesus means I gain an intimate knowledge into the heart of Jesus. I know what motivates Jesus. I know what he loves. I know what he doesn't love. I know the heart of Jesus. If I want to say, I've been called and I'm following Jesus, I'm going to become the type of person that investigates the life of Jesus, that fills my heart and my mind with the stories of the Gospels, who knows how Jesus is, and I begin to imitate that, and I begin to fill myself with that intimate knowledge of the heart of Jesus. You can't really say you're following him if you don't really know him, if you don't really know what he loves and what's important to him. Every high school graduation that you've been to, and probably several college graduations you've been to, some young person is going to get up and represent their class, and they're going to make a speech. And what is the one common theme? It's almost a cliche through all of these speeches. We're going to go out and we're going to make the world a better place. Following Jesus, you do want to make the world a better place. But what does it mean for the world to be a better place? Everyone has a utopian dream of what it means for the world to be a better place. Clean water for all the villages in Africa, right? Better health care in the nation of Haiti. I don't know what it is. You fill in the blank. Everyone has a niche or a different view. I will tell you what the world as a better place looks like. It's called salvation. Jesus came not to call the righteous, but to call the sinners. If we're going to make the world a better place, then that means everybody finds salvation. They're redeemed. They hear about the death, burial, resurrection of Jesus, and they become united to that. We believe that Romans 6 teaches when you were baptized, you were joined to the death, burial, resurrection. Right? That message of salvation. That's when the world is a better place. When everyone lives like saved people and imitate Jesus, I believe the rest of the problems will begin to work out. But more importantly than all that, following Jesus is trusting him at his word. When he preaches a sermon in the Gospels, when he describes the nature of the human heart, when he talks about how to conquer fears and the things you should be concerned about, you believe it. Like Beretta says, you could take it to the bank. It becomes, the cliche of the word, the gospel, right? When we hear, oh, that's gospel, that means it's true. I see it on the job site. People are trying to square up a wall, or they're trying to fix something. Oh, that's gospel. That means it's straight, right? It's good, it's true, it's legit. That's how we know. We trust Him at His word. Obviously, following Jesus in this particular paragraph, this vignette, this true story, you don't care what organized religion thinks. Jesus knew what the rituals, the customs, the mores, He knew what the Pharisees believed, and yet He breaks all that. He embraces the sinner. He embraces the tax collector. He welcomes them. He's welcomed into their center, and He welcomes them back. And He doesn't care what the organized religion thinks. And there's a corollary to that. There's a parallel path to that. Following Jesus means we're not controlled by our comfort zones. The Pharisees are very controlled about their comfort zone. Legalistic religious people, very much concerned about comfort zones. A week or two ago, I posted an article in the newspaper. It was on UFOs. What if UFOs are real? How would it affect your faith? I got a pretty interesting email from someone. Jacob and I were in the truck, and the topic of UFOs came up. And I texted him the link from the newspaper. And he said, "Dad, isn't it great to be at a church where you don't have to worry about posting stuff like that?" I'm sorry. I'm like, yeah, it is, man. Because there was a time in my life where if I would have put something like that in the newspaper, I probably would have had to be accountable and answer for that. But it is good to be with a group of people where I don't have to worry. I can write something like that and not worry about my job. That's exactly what he said. Isn't it nice to not have to worry about your job? Comfort zones. We're willing to stretch those and be stretched. I'm about ready to wrap it up here, but notice Jesus says something very interesting. When he talks to Levi, notice what he doesn't say. Follow a pattern. Follow a prescription. He doesn't say a host of other things that we think about when it comes to religion. Jesus says, follow me. Follow me. Not a method, not a system, not an organization, not a religion. Jesus is saying it's all about me. What does it mean to follow Jesus? It's about Him. And sadly, we lose sight of that reality. We get all of these other things that distract us and take our focus off. And we think about man, I got to wear the right clothes to church. I got to be at the right type of church. It's got to have the right steeple over the top. It's got to have the right cross on the wall. It better have an American flag. No, it can't have an American flag. I mean, all the things that people bicker and argue about. And following Jesus, at the end of the day, it's a personal relationship. It's a connection. It's knowing Him and being known by Him. It's a real in-depth relationship with a goal in mind. Believe it or not, you may have never heard this before, but Jesus, when He calls people, and some respond like our cat on the front porch. They just stay at arm's length. They like to come over and eat the cat food and scurry away, right? Believe it or not, everyone, Jesus wants you to partner with Him in His kingdom. When He calls Levi, what's the first thing Levi does? He gets out the Rolodex and he says, okay, which one of my buddies is singing Highway to Hell with AC/DC? I got to get them singing Stairway to Heaven, right? I got to get them on a different path here. And he gets them all together. And he says, well, I've got to do something about this. Jesus wants us to serve him and to partner with him in his kingdom. And that is the most amazing thing that I think anyone could ever participate in. Adam and Eve, God creates them, puts them in the garden. And in Genesis 1 it says God made them in his image, male and female, and he gave them dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air. God gave them dominion over the physical creation. And Jesus says, I want you to partner with me in my kingdom. We're going to make the world a better place, one person at a time. And guess what? That calling is still open and needed today.